What is up? What is up, Miss Village? It is good to see you guys. It is another trip around the sun for me. I have leveled up to level 39, which is a little crazy. And yeah, I wanted to share some of this day with you guys. I wanted to say what's up. I wanted to say thank you so much for loving God's Eye. You guys shut those trolls down. The reviews are great. The outpouring of love and support has been great. Thank you so much. You're absolutely awesome. And thank you, Jordan Williams, for the birthday wish. I appreciate it. Growing up in the 80s, we used to talk about we may not make it because of the Soviet Union and fear of all that other nuclear war and whatever. And we're here, right? I was saying earlier today that I got this amazing birthday present from my wonderful girlfriend. And also from so many Miss Villagers, basically just writing times that the Miss Village has touched their lives and how it's impacted them, and babies have been born, people have decided to keep on living, literally, people have reconciled with family. And I was saying that, it's kind of the very best birthday present that I could get, because it kind of just reminds me that there's an impact that we have, that the good things that we do resonate on, right? I don't know about the rest of you, but this has been like a very trying year. This has been a very trying series of years, honestly. And just like little by little, I feel like my hope was being eroded without ever even really understanding it or recognizing it. But when I get messages from people, when I get messages from you saying like, hey, this is something positive that's happened. Hey, this is something, I was feeling alone and then I found a friend in the Miss Village and now we're buddies and I don't feel alone anymore. Hey, I wasn't able to talk to my kid and then, we both read the books and then we connected. That stuff matters, It's not something that's going to make the Wall Street Journal. It's not something that's going to make the New York Times, but it really, really matters. And I don't know, getting this today kind of reminded me of that, and I think kind of honed me back and put me on the right path. So I don't want to get all mushy on y'all, but I just wanted to say thank you. That really, really matters to me, and I appreciate you guys being part of that. So thank you. Okay, so we've been doing this Q&A style, and it seems like people are enjoying that. Thank you. Oh, okay, so I got another. I'm supposed to open this now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I got another birthday gift. Looks like it is from the wonderful Geneva. So let's see. Okay, so it says AK's Margarita. So that's awesome. Thank you, Geneva. I appreciate it. It is, I was thinking that I don't have enough pimp cups. So this is great. It's absolutely wonderful to go along with my pimp hairdo and these very clearly reflective and not good for lives pimp glasses. So I'll take those off. Thank you, appreciate it. I will drink with my finger out later. Sorry. So. There's a bunch of stuff we can talk about. All right, so for all my Audible listeners who feel unloved, you are not unloved. You are appreciated. You are wonderful. Luke Daniels will be recording, like I said, God's Eye in January, hopefully early January, so hopefully I can get it to you by late January. It takes 2 to 3 weeks once you submit it to Audible. Excuse me. Book 9 will be coming out at the same time. It's what I'm working on now. Sorry, not at exactly the same time as when the Audible for God's Sake come out, but it's going to come out around the same time period. And Nick has slotted time to record book 9 in March of next year. So in the first 3 months of next year, you guys are going to be getting God's Eye Audible. You're going to be getting book 9. You're going to be getting book 9 Audible, and hopefully 1 or 2 of these other very big special secret projects that I've been working on. So I appreciate it. And James Bolton, that is always good advice. Starzinia is always a wonderful thing, and do not piss off the Hearth Mother, obviously. All right. Let me dive in. So there was a question. So you guys have done the Q&A. Let me answer some of these. But one of the things that I want to answer first is about what somebody put in the group, and somebody posted like a little snapshot from God's Eye where it says, Remy's cocoa colored skin, basically showing that Remy is a black character, just like Richter is a black character. And as usual, when we talk about race in this horrible, crazy, ridiculous world that we have, there were wires that were crossed. So I just kind of want to like smooth all that out, right? So I write main characters that are black for several reasons. One of which, and one of the most important, is that the world of sci-fi fantasy that I grew up with was very homogenous. It was usually just like a white man that was the hero, the protagonist, the whatever, and that's not a problem. That's awesome. There's no problem with that at all. It's just that it's important to also have diversity for various reasons. One of the reasons is so that other children that look like me growing up can see heroes that look like them. And so the way that it resonated with you when you saw a hero, when you heard about somebody doing something courageous and you wanted to sort of emulate that, it's easier when it looks like you. It's easier when it's someone that you're like, oh, that's me and I can do that. And I want to do that for children that are reading my stuff and for other people now. The other main reason, and I've talked about this before, but when I started writing these books, my goal was to write an enjoyable story first, period. I wanted to write a fun story. But as I was writing in the first book, I realized that just wasn't quite enough for me. And I wanted to have the books be an agent for social change, moving the world in a positive direction. And I asked myself, how can I do that? And for anyone that's heard this before, you knows what I'm about to say. I do not believe that arguing or yelling or forcing your opinion in someone's face, because it really feels like this, is ever really effective. Like when you're arguing with somebody on the net, both sides are feeling like, the other side's a dumbass. And I agree. Their side is the dumbass part. We're the smart ones. But we can't prove that, right? So I always said, what does affect people? What does impact people? What does shift the needle in a little bit? And what I came up with was the idea of systematic desensitization about things, right? We grow up and we're always taught certain things by the generation before us. Like, this is what men are like. This is what women are like. This is what Christians are like. This is what Muslims are like. This is what whites are like. This is what blacks are like. This is what, gypsies are like. This is what blah, 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 right? And we're inundated with that. And it's very hard to break out of that, especially if someone's challenging a worldview that you've held for a very long time. So in my opinion, what could work is, as opposed to like trying to force or shove something down somebody's throat, what if I just wrote a world where it was already the way that it kind of should be, right? I don't talk about gender relations like, hey, just so you know, women are just as good as men, because women are just as good as men. So why don't I just write powerful female characters? And if I believe that men and women are the same, there's also going to be dumbasses on both sides. So I write dumbass women and dumbass men and powerful men. And I do that. And the point for me having Remy and Richter as a black character is not so that it feels other or different from you, or not so that you should have to think about it in a different way. The point is to show you that you shouldn't have to think about it in a different way. I love it when people are saying, wow, I always just saw that character as me, and that's how I think it. I'm like, because that is what it should happen. The things that keep us similar are way greater than the things that keep us apart. But sadly, that doesn't sell newspapers. It doesn't move the needle, and it doesn't necessarily get likes singing Kumbaya anymore. So that's why I do it. All right. So I never want it to be a thing where it's like someone you feel like you should have to feel a certain way about it. The whole point is that you don't have to feel a certain way about it. The whole point is that we get to a point where the differences that we have are sort of taken as, oh, that's cool. You like to wear blue jeans. I like to wear slacks. And it's as easy as that. Okay. So I hope that that wasn't me shoving anything down your throat. I wanted you to understand, and I hope that helped clear it up. Okay, all right. So let me get on to some of these other questions. All right. So Jared Morrison says, how did you come up with the in-depth concept of scribing? It's one of the many facets of the land that fascinates me. So I am so happy that you asked that, because scribing, like so many other facets of the land, is one of those things that I spent days reading books on, speaking to calligrapher, shout out to my friend Katie Gibson, studying various things, trying to understand what is it that makes a good calligrapher in real life. What is it that makes, something that's better or worse, like when people tell me, like people ask me like, well, are you a good doctor? I'm like, well, let me tell you what makes a good doctor. It's this, this, and this is why I hit all those. So I'm an amazing fucking doctor. And that's the kind of thing that I tried to do. Okay. So when I was coming up with it, when I'm trying to write these stories and these worlds, including God's Eye, I'm always trying to come up with something that does make sense. That if we were transmuted in a similar way, that the mechanics and the rules could be a natural outcropping of what's coming on. So when I was coming up with scribing, it's like, okay, well, what really goes into it? Like how you write is a style that scribes have to learn. And it's very specific. It's the kind of thing that like we don't necessarily notice if we're just seeing it, like, oh, that looks really nice. But for scribes, like they can easily notice if it's, the English blah, blah, blah from the 15th century versus the 14th century kind of thing. And I thought, well, what if there were certain powers that went behind that, and then also the tools that you use, also the ink that you use. One of the things that I love about writing these books is that, excuse me, when I'm introducing these new systems, I'm learning about similar systems in real life. Like there's a whole mining, like I've touched on mining a little bit, but I joined a Facebook group full of miners and spoke with them for like 2 weeks asking them questions. And one thing that I've really learned is that miners do not give a fuck at all about anything. So like, that heavily influenced how I'm going to be like describing these miners that are going to be coming up more and more and are going to have a more prevalent sort of like, role in various books that I'm going to be writing, but also like, what is it that makes them stronger? What is it that, sort of really does it? Like, the idea that, the miners are going to have, and it's a little slight spoiler, the miners are going to have like a mental attribute that's very important because the oppression of being underground, of having to deal with the stress of seeing the dark and whatever and like that, like, maybe that there's certain depths that you can't get to unless you increase your mental fortitude. And I really just love that there's all these nuances that we each live, that can sort of come across. So I talk to experts. I let my mind wander wildly, and then I shake it up and see what can come. So yeah, that's how I do it. So I hope that answered the question. And shout out to Skitty for the wonderful reference. Minas, not Minas. You lost me. Great movie. Okay. So Kenny Parker says, happy birthday. Let's pop open a keg of the Goat Banger. Way ahead of you. Party like the Miss Village says, do you have any plans for Richter to meet another Chaos Seed that he can actually become allies with? So Kenny Parker, I do love you, but I do believe you understand what's going to happen. Trapped in the popcorn, that guy. No spoilers, Kenny. All right, so Stephen Walker says, AKA, you should be giving gifts. Instead, you give us some gifts. Thank you, God, that I rots. I appreciate that. And again, thank you guys so much. You guys know that I have trolls. You saw that one of the trolls left a ridiculous review, like, I loathe Aileron Kong, and that's why I hate these books. I mean, like, it's ridiculous. But, and unfortunately, the powers to be Amazon, Audible, they're not really able to control the reviews. So all I really have is you guys actually telling the truth and saying when you like it and when you don't, and you have. And it's at 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's been only out for a couple days, and it's got like 300 plus reviews. I mean, a lot of times indie books, when they come out, they get like 10, they get like 50 reviews, and you guys are amazing, just telling the truth. It's so appreciated and so awesome. So thank you. So you guys rock. It's just another small thank you. Okay, so Chris Litta wants to know the worst hangover I ever had. Well, let me tell you, there's a very unique experience that you may or may not know, but when you wake up and you've realized that you've already been pooping, that's what inspires a Chapter 37 novel. So I'm not going to go into that. I will just say that the only words that came out of my mouth were, "What's happening?" in that octave. So I'll let you clue in the rest. All right, so Keith Rains was, as a doctor, what's the gnarliest thing you've ever seen? So I won't talk about the gnarliest because but I will talk about one of the grossest things. Oh my God. So there was a guy that we brought in, and he was homeless. And unfortunately, the government here in Georgia is not super sympathetic to lower social economic class as far as medicine goes, and a lot of mental hospitals were closed when I was going through my training. And where do they go? They basically became homeless and sort of hover around hospitals because they understand that they need care periodically. So we brought in someone who was just floridly psychotic, and he had was wearing like one of those old school, like, gym shorts, not gym shorts, like gym suits, right? That cinch at the bottom. And it was just all done up, and like it was super cinched, and we had to like get him naked to examine him. And when we opened it, it was he hadn't taken them off to use the bathroom for several weeks. So you can imagine sort of the effluent that flowed out onto everyone. I saw a medical student throw up on her attending. Did not get her a better score. There were, it's kind of amazing some of the things that you will see in the hospital when you're working at one that's called a safety net hospital. And basically a safety net is just what it sounds like. When every other hospital in the city says you don't have any money, you can't come here. Grady Hospital, which is where I did my training for 5 years, is where we catch them. We take care of everyone that no one else wants to take care of. And the things that you will see just shouldn't exist in American society right now. I've seen scurvy. Like it's the kind of thing that you're like, oh my God, the pirate thing. And it's like, yes, the pirate thing. But you don't get scurvy if you eat citrus, right? So if somebody could afford orange juice once a month, they wouldn't get scurvy, but they couldn't, right? I see people that come in with vitamin deficiencies. And the reason that doesn't come up anymore is that every American food is jammed with every extra vitamin that you can do, like those Cheerios commercials, like everything else. It's very difficult to get a vitamin deficiency in a modern society that we live in. You must be completely ignored and have to live in a substandard way to do that. And yet I would see those things because there's just a lot of work that can be done to help our society. So, there's funny doctor ones. There's a lot of morbid doctor ones. That was like one of the grosser ones. But like I said, some of the things that I saw were funny, but a lot of them were really, really tragic on a daily basis. So, I'm happy that I got to serve there, but it does take its toll. It really, really does. All right. Let's see. So William Forbes says, 2-part question. What's my favorite aspect system of the land? And what about this aspect really excites you? So, honestly, nobody really talks about it. But what I love the most about the land is what I feel like separates it mechanic-wise from almost every other LitRPG, almost every other book that's ever, been written out there. And it's the affinity system. It's the symbol affinity system that we don't really look at too much because Richter's, ability is limitless, so that he has perfect affinity. But when I really thought about what's going to make the land unique and real and something that can resonate with us, it was the fact that not everyone can do everything to a certain level, right? Like most of us can do something a little bit, like can golf, can, hang a shelf, can cook a dinner. But then there's those people that like just have this that little something, that little God touch that makes them amazing, right? And gives them that 100% affinity even when they reach the master rank. I could probably hit balls forever. I probably would not be able to outdrive Tiger. Like that's the way it is. So even though it's not really looked at too much, and it's because inherently the character that I've written doesn't necessarily need to think about it. The affinity system is what I'm most proud of. It's the core system. The same way for God's Eye, what I'm most proud of is the energy system. Because again, it just sort of, it's what's going to keep it grounded. And I think that that's one of the most important things about writing sci-fi fantasy is to be able to keep the characters even as they progress, to keep them at a limit. And that's one of the things that I worked so hard on. I had an epiphany at 3 a.m. and I was like, oh my God, this is what ties everything together. And it's going to manifest more. But just when I used to play Oblivion or Skyrim or whatever else, and I would grind for hours, endlessly days until I was uber powerful, and then it stopped being fun. right? Like nobody really wants to, go against the most powerful boss, and then they can't even see you because your camouflage is perfect, or they die in one hit. Like, what's the point of that? Yeah, that's what I'm most proud of. All right. All right. So, Krishalia Bird is asking about what Alma's going to be going on, and I'm sorry, no spoilers, so we're going to have to strap the popcorn on you a little bit. All right, so this is a good question. So Jonathan Rich is saying he's really enjoying God's Eye, but the main characters of Richter and Zerofell are similar in some ways. In what ways are they different? So without going too much into spoilers, I would say that they differ dramatically in the overall viewpoint of the world, right? So Richter, was kind of just like average Joe, sort of shows up, makes some very stupid mistakes, which again, I stand by is what would absolutely happen if an average person were stuck in a fantasy world. And like people are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you make these mistakes," and I'm like, "Oh my god, have you ever read a newspaper? I don't understand." And so he like kind of rises the challenge and sort of takes people in and is like, I'm gonna create a safe haven. We're gonna do this for the people. And I don't really want to ruin. I'm gonna sort of speak around this. But the very last line of God's Eye, right? When it talks about what the goal of Zerofell is, that's the difference between the two. It's sort of like a manifestation of the road to hell, can be paved with good intentions and sort of how that all shakes out. So what we're really looking at is someone who, is looking at themselves as, a servant try and becomes a lord, to do it as, for the individual, right? As opposed to someone that maybe is trying to save the world as a whole. And how would that alter, their actions and what they're willing to do. So it's going to manifest a bunch, and I tried to be as vague as possible with my pimp chalice, so that I wasn't ruining it for anyone. But yeah, that's the difference. All right, Abraham Cornelius Humpergood, which is an awesome name, says happy birthday, and says, what's the best birthday gift you've ever received? Honestly, this is the best birthday gift that I've ever received. It's hope. I mean, it's hard for me to. I tried to put it into words in a post that I did earlier, but it's hard for me to sort of like convey it. But I guess the easiest way would be to say, we all feel guilty sometimes. We all feel sad sometimes. We all feel depressed and overwhelmed sometimes. And a lot of times we feel like we're the only ones that are feeling like that, especially because if it seems like all the other people we know are doing fine. And I call absolute bullshit because everybody feels like that sometimes. So if you have ever felt like you finally got a breath of fresh air after things were stale, or you were able to finally wake up in the morning and be a little bit more hopeful and a little bit happier, that's kind of what this gift did for me. So that's why. So anyway, moving on. So Justin wants to know, can we get a Netflix show? Yes, absolutely. Again, Netflix, very little shame. Bring it on. I clearly need an adult, so come on, let's make that show. All right. So Hunter says, happy birthday. Appreciate it. Wants to know, if you were to look through Earth's most powerful telescope, could you see the land, or is it farther away? And unfortunately, it is farther away, but perhaps one day we will make a telescope. So John Mazua, thank you. And I love what you wrote in the book. So I really appreciate it, John, and everyone else that contributed. And shout out to my cousin, Jovita Lynn Herring. It's good to see you. Charles B. Updike is trying to start some mess up in here. Xbox, son, Halo, what's up? So let the drama commence. All right, so Mr. Jeffrey Alvarado wants to get a tattoo of the updated image of the Great Seal. I actually have been speaking with some of the top artists on like ArtStation, DeviantArt, whatever, and I'm going to be getting a slew of new artwork, so I will let you know. And I appreciate everyone that has gotten a tattoo, but I will just say, be sure. Like, I'm honored, but be sure. Okay? Appreciate you. All right. All right. So this is wonderful. Jesse is not there. Guessing that's not an actual last name. Said if you had to eat a Pokemon, who would it be? Yeah. I'm gonna go with Pikachu. Because if you're gonna bury your face in something, it better be the best something there is. That's my mom taught me that. So yeah, that's that's how it's gonna roll. All right. I guess that was the last. Actually, that was the last pre message. Whatever. Blah, blah. Yeah. Okay. So obviously, PC is superior to Xbox and PlayStation, but that wasn't the question. It was Xbox versus PlayStation. PC is the best. Obviously. So yeah. So Steve wants to say Civ 4, 5, or 6. Obviously, Civ 4 is the greatest game of all time. I mean, it was made like damn near 20 years ago. It still holds up. Think about how much technology has progressed and think about how dynamic and interesting that game still is. The modability, Rise of Mankind, Madara, who made that is just an absolute wizard. Fall from Heaven is pretty fun. It's got some kinks in it, whatever. But I mean, Civ 4 is clearly just the greatest. Now, I would love it if we could, so obviously the biggest problem with Civ is the battle system, right? It's one against one. It's the stack of doom. It's garbage. What I would love is a game, and this is my hope one day for the land once we get the VR direct brain simulation, is what we have is basically Elder Scrolls third person where you can zoom out to the civilization level, right? And battles really would take place between, it would go to like a separate map and the topography would matter. And, if there were, a river or there was a forest on one side, you get a bonus to, like if you were, sniping archers and blah, 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 blah. Like, I think that'd be amazing. Best game ever created. I can't wait to play. It's awesome. And yes, I do agree, Susie, that Civ 6 did fix the stack system. But my problem with Civ 6 is that it's nerfed, okay? Like, the Sid Meier, that was not necessarily his vision. I think there's some things that are really great about Civ 6, like the fact that when you get, like, iron or, like, when you're, like, develop the horses, right, that every turn you get a little bit more. So, like, it's a finite system. I think that's brilliant, such an easy, simple fix. But the world's too small, right? I mean, like the point about Civ 4 is going into the XML, changing the map. So it's this massive, like, almost universe spanning thing. It's awesome. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. Yeah. Okay. I could talk about Civ 4 days. Let me go back through and see if there's anything that I missed. Shout outs I need to give. So Michael Fuentes wants to know if there could be a sprite human chaos seed. Well, it's not really a spoiler. We've already seen that there have been mixed race chaos seeds. Human's a dick, hashtag. So yes, I would say that there could be. So people are asking about book 9. Again, Luke Daniels, very excited to be working with him. He's a master of his craft, as you know. He will be recording God's Eye in January. And Nick Podell will be recording book 9 of The Land in March. And I will be getting book 9 ebook to y'all sometime in between, now and March, basically. So, like I said, the first part of next year is going to be a triple threat. And I hope you guys really enjoy it. And thank you guys so much for all the birthday wishes. Thank you again for the reviews. Let me just stop for a second and tell you guys, like, reviews mean everything to an indie author like me. I mean, they really, really do. It's the kind of thing, like, before I was an author, like, I'd hear people ask for reviews and it's like, oh yeah, but it can't be like that important. Like, I'm telling you, like, it's really, really important because again, I'm an indie. I don't have a publishing company behind me. It's only like, you judge a book by its cover. Everybody judges a book by its cover. And the second thing they judge it by are the reviews and the stars, right? Just like, whether or not you're going to take a chance on something. Think about all the times you guys have browsed Amazon or Netflix or Hulu trying to decide what you're going to watch or what you're going to buy or what you're going to read. Like, it really, really matters. So, I mean, the fact that I've got a fandom that, sort of comes through, and not only that, but does the second thing that I've asked for, which is to click like on the reviews that you agree with. Like, that's huge because the trolls can't really do too much to me because they're not creative and kind of dicks. But one of the things that they try to do is they try to leave a bad review, and then they get their little troll farms or their click farms or whatever, and then they click that one so that it's at the top, right? So even though it doesn't really matter, it's like theoretically there could be someone who, even though there's 4.5 out of 5 stars at first, the top review is like a bad one, and so they might not give it. So like you guys voting up the ones that you agree with like negates that, you know, and so that means a lot. So again, thank you so much. If you can, please take 60 seconds and just leave a review and just click like on the ones that you agree with. That happens an awesome amount. All right. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So another question where people have been asking a bunch is KU versus. All right. All right. Let me stop here. So Brad Shroud says, Pornhub, Side Eyes Chat. I don't know if that was reference for whatever, but yes, you know, I would say it's a fine site, I guess, you know, for the articles. That's what I say. All right, so Jeremy Berman says, can we expect any LGBTQ characters? So, I mean, the land already has LGBTQ characters. Tabia is one of the ones that, you know, brings to mind, you know, the mostly. Tabia is based on a real person who is just as effervescent and powerful as the character that I write. Would I write one as a main character? Probably not. And the reason being that I think that Will and Grace was hilarious. I have loved like the bitchy gay characters and the solemn gay characters and the whatever gay characters that I have seen, but those are just characters. And I have friends that identify as LGBTQ, but you know, it's like I can't write them in a way that I feel like would be anything other than just sort of like an attention grab. You know, now I would agree that probably the same argument that I made earlier, that, you know, the point as I write a black character that everyone can see it is the point that there's not really too much difference, but there are a couple subtle differences in things that I bring in. There's definitely things that I bring in as a Southerner, i.e. the sweet tea comment and God's eye that everyone went off on. And unless I really felt like I could bring something to the character or that I was honoring a character like that in such a way, I probably wouldn't write them. Same reason I wouldn't necessarily write like a Muslim character, because I don't necessarily understand enough about the faith or can't describe it in how it would impact my life or the life of the character in a way that I feel like would really resonate as true. So I don't know, that may change in the future as I increase my knowledge and increase the awesome people that I know. But as of right now, I'm probably just going to stick to what I know. I mean, there's a reason that both of my main characters are involved with medicine. All right. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. So one of the questions that people are asking is KU, Kindle Unlimited, versus buying the book. So without getting into all the numbers, short and sweet, anybody that reads my book in any way that they can, thank you, full stop, don't worry about it, okay? The way KU works, though, is that there's a pot of, money for every author on Amazon that is in KU. And, like, think of it as easily, like, let's say there's, like, $1 million for every author for that month. And let's say that there are 1 million pages that were read that month between every book. Then the math is very simple, that for every page that's read, each author gets $1. Now, the way it actually works is that for every page that's read, each author gets half a penny. Which again, doesn't really sound that much, but it does add up enough. And with the size of the books that I write, like it more or less evens out, right? So I would just say that, again, for anyone that can read the book, I just appreciate you spending your time with me. Anyone that leaves a review is even more doubly appreciated. So like, don't stress it either way. And don't feel shy about doing whatever works best for you, because this is a crazy ass year and it's just kind of awesome that we're here. So yeah, and wear a mask. Please, God, wear a mask. And I will send you a mask for free. If you cannot afford a mask, just message me or email me. It is not a trick. There's no strings attached. I will send you one for free. And if you want to buy a mask, I sell them at cost on the LitRPG site. Just click on the mask button. So please wear a mask. And actually, I don't want to go into this, but like real talk, real talk. The United States is the sickest nation in the world in regards to COVID. Okay. This is just a medical fact. It took us 10 months to get 10 million sick people. Okay? 10 million infected. Okay? In the past month, we've had another million every 6 days. Okay? We're at 15 million and change. Okay? That is a drastic increase. That is 4 times as fast. Okay? It's going to be a tough winter for a lot of us because hospitals are normally at capacity in the winter because people get sick more in the winter. That's not including this influx of a million more sick people every 6 days. So please, I know we're tired of it. I'm so tired of it. Please wear a mask. Please social distance. Please be safe. I want all of you guys to make it with me. People that die from COVID die 4 weeks later, roughly. So the people that were sick now, we're going to see those deaths in 4 weeks. And on average, it's a 3% mortality rate. So for every million, that's 30,000 people that are passing away. So I'm done. I'm off my soapbox. I, as a physician, I just have to let you know, please wear a mask. I will send you one for free. I really, 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 really want all of you guys to be here to see the land book shifting. So I appreciate you. Please do it. Okay. All right. So I feel like I've been talking your ear off. You know, I just really wanted to spend part of my birthday with you guys. You guys are absolutely amazing. David Eckert Gray is a horrible person because he wants to know what happens if a vampire drinks a unicorn's blood. Okay. And yeah, so you guys are absolutely awesome. I appreciate you. I couldn't do any of this without you. Thank you so much for enjoying God's Eye. Oh man, I got so much shit from you guys for writing another series, but you love it. You actually love it, so that's awesome. And you know, be good to each other. Like, you know, like the world's gonna get better. Things are gonna be cool. So as always, peace, love, perfect margarita. Stay great. Bye. This stop button isn't working. Okay. I'm literally clicking it 10 times. I'm going to close Facebook. Bye.